From the pages of The Ring's Wrestling, March 1966, we are transported to a world where giants of the ring battled not only their opponents, but also perceptions, policies, and promoters. This isn't just a magazine, it's a time capsule of wrestling's golden grit, stamped with blood, sweat, and the tension between spectacle and sport. We begin with the editorial from Nat Lubay, a fiery commentary titled, "Don't Ignore the Feeding Hand." Lubay lashes out at promoters who refuse to cooperate with media coverage, calling them short-sighted and arrogant. He reminds readers that wrestling's success depends on visibility and public trust. He challenges the notion that wrestling doesn't need a world champion, arguing passionately for a single recognized title holder to unify the fractured circuits and bring prestige to the sport. Lubay makes one thing clear: wrestling can't afford to turn its back on honest publicity. Then comes the centerpiece, a scathing breakdown of the Bruno Sammartino vs. Dr. Bill Miller trilogy at Madison Square Garden. Titled "No Edifier for 48,000," this match report by Dan Daniel doesn't pull punches. While Bruno may have been the hometown hero, the series left fans jeering. The first match ended with a judge's decision after a curfew stoppage. The second saw Bruno literally walk out of the ring and get disqualified, while the third match ended in just 48 seconds after Bruno blindsided Miller. Fans weren't just disappointed, they were furious. The article includes firecracker incidents, near riots, and fan backlash. One writer says Madison Square Garden became a gas tank waiting for a match. If wrestling was supposed to be an exhibition, these three bouts barely qualified as such. But brutality wasn't limited to New York. In Tampa, the Miller vs. Malenko chain match was billed as the goriest ever. Danny Miller, a clean-cut amateur star, agreed to face the great Malenko under no-rules chain match conditions. The match devolved into savagery as both men bloodied each other with steel links, bites, and choking holds. Malenko's cheating and Miller's rage erupted in post-match violence, with referees and wrestlers storming the ring to restore order. The match became legendary, not just for its violence, but for showing how far ECW-style chaos dates back. The issue takes a sharp and progressive turn with Nellie Harrison's feature on women's wrestling. In Fair Grappler's Nick's Girly Mags on Nudes, Harrison celebrates women wrestlers for rejecting offers from adult magazines. She highlights how modern lady grapplers like Lorraine Johnson, Penny Banner, and Millie Z are serious athletes, smart, disciplined, and determined. Harrison praises the training programs run by Moolah and Buddy Lee, noting the surge in young women wanting to wrestle. Despite challenges, especially the ban on women's wrestling in New York, there's a movement brewing. The piece reveals the women's efforts to secure equal opportunity, form their own rules, and protest unfair treatment by promoters and commissions. The magazine doubles down with more women's coverage in 1966 leaders far superior to pioneer gal stars, written by Nat Fleischer. It contrasts the beauty, athleticism, and professionalism of 1960s women with the early pioneers like Mildred Burke and Cora Livingston. Several wrestlers are profiled in pinup style: Dagmar, Peaches Grabble, Ruth Waters, Stella Novak, and others, all shown as powerful and glamorous in equal measure. The article doesn't shy away from addressing looks, but it makes clear that skill is now mandatory. No one coasts on glamour alone. We're then introduced to Millie Z, a Yugoslavian Amazon who claims she's strong enough and skilled enough to wrestle Bruno Sammartino himself. In Who's Afraid of Big Bear Bruno? Millie calls out American promoters for sidelining women and insists she'd dominate any man in a match. She talks about her upbringing, 5 children, her past in European movies, and her frustration with New York's outdated ban on women's wrestling. It's part promo, part manifesto. Elsewhere, Roman Women Wrestled, a fascinating historical piece, reminds us that women's wrestling isn't new. Ron Rennie describes how ancient Roman women competed in public spectacles, with legends like Gerardesca Menadius earning hundreds of victories. The article traces the history of female wrestling through 19th century European troupes, circus acts, and early showbiz-style exhibitions. In Old Italian Mat Ranks Loaded with Shooters, Jack Pfeffer tells the tale of real-deal Italian tough guys, legit grapplers who brought submission holds and shoot-style wrestling to the spotlight long before sports entertainment took over. The issue continues with global reports, wrestling from Canada, Australia, France, Memphis, Quebec, Florida, and St. Louis. Kowalski headlines in Australia, Vachon beats Vodic, and there's a continued push for international cooperation, despite every territory having its own world champion. You'll find Bill Cardill, the voice of Pittsburgh wrestling, profiled with admiration, and Stan Pulaski, reborn under his rightful name, gets a second wind in the spotlight. Plus, the fan clubs gather for their annual conference, a reminder of how central community was to wrestling's rise. The back of the magazine rounds out with cartoons, ratings, mat mail, and an entire section titled On and Around the Mat World, which provides blow-by-blow snapshots of matches from Boston to Paris to Nebraska. The ads are wild, of course. Duraclean franchises promise a way out of wage slavery. Kung Fu books claim you'll destroy multiple attackers with zero physical effort. There are mail-order forms for back issues, wrestling booklets, and promises to make you a mat expert for just $3.98. You don't just read this magazine, you live it. So if you remember a time when a match could end in a riot, when chain fights drew blood and headlines, and when women had to fight the system just to step in the ring, then you know this isn't just nostalgia. This is wrestling at its rawest. So do what fans in 1966 were told to do, like share and subscribe. Because this history, it still screams to be heard. Every day, from the pages.